Welcome to another 15-minute Feature Friday by the pre-sales team. My name is Mike Terrace, and we're going to cover the Herta facial recognition integration to XProtect today. So I'm going to jump right in. The presentation is going to be relatively short, and then we'll do a bit of a demo. Not a ton of functionality to go through, but I think the main point here is that this is something that's really easy to get set up and to demo. So I know we have a lot of customers that are interested in analytics, and we have a lot of competition that has built-in analytics. So this would be something that would be relatively easy to get set up on your demo system if you have the right requirements, or if you can access a demo system that has the right requirements, such as mine. So here we go. So how do you get the Herta integration? I know this yellow text probably doesn't pop through real good, but I can send this out to anyone that needs it. So if you're having tech support difficulties with it, if you want to get a license, if you need the downloads, if you have customers that are struggling with it, their tech support at hertasecurity.com. They're located on the west coast of the U.S., so they're very responsive. They've helped me out several times. Webinars, if you want to get a webinar set up for a customer that's interested, RSVP at hertasecurity.com. If you're interested in demoing the technology for someone, and that would be obviously demoing just their system. If we want to do the milestone integration, contact the pre-sales team. We've done this for several customers. I know we did this for airport, and it was a big success there. And then if you have an opportunity, their VP of Global Sales, I talked to him earlier this week, and he said that I could put him on blast here. So here he is, Tony Cristiano at Herta Security. If you've been to any of our events like ISC or As Is, where they were in our booth, he's always there. So the requirements basically for getting the Herta integration, you need an NVIDIA GPU. So they won't install their application unless you have that. It works on GTX. It works on Quadro series. For those of you that are familiar, the lowest GTX that it states that it'll work on officially is the 1060. I have a Quadro K1200, so it works on mine. So it works on several cards that aren't included in their actual documentation. Other than that, any milestone system that supports our MIP SDK integration, so that's Pro or Advanced series. And then you need an on-VIF compatible camera to do the actual detection of faces. Next here, some of the software components. So there's really only two software components: the bio surveillance from Herta. This is your primary interface that I'll be showing here. It's where you connect to the cameras. It's how you define the faces, or the subjects as they call them. You group those, you search for those within their application, and then if you want to search through the different detections and identifications in their application, you can define some alarms there as well. Primarily, you're going to use the Herta biosurveillance to connect to the cameras using, again, OnVIF or just the IP address and the credentials, and then it will also display your live identifications. So if you're having difficulties getting people or faces identified, this is the application you're going to use to troubleshoot that. It's also where you go to define the different requirements for identification. But we'll get into that later when I do the demo. The Milestone Herta integration app, which is on the right side here, this is the middleware component that you use to connect between Milestone and Herta. It's how you map the cameras. So the cameras connect directly to Herta, and then you can map those cameras to a Milestone camera. So you could map to a camera that's not the actual camera you're using the facial recognition for. So if you needed to mount a camera in an area and then you wanted to map that to a camera that has a different overview, that's possible. This app also determines the extent of the metadata which is shared via the Milestone analytics events that are passed between the two systems. So I'll show that as well. A couple things on the documentation. They have three primary documents that they will share with you if you email their tech support team. One's hardware requirements. One is camera best practices, and another is just the integration configuration for the milestone system. So it's all pretty straightforward stuff. What they do recommend is you get at least 50 pixels between the eyes. So if you need help calculating that, feel free to reach out to us. And then all the integration configuration includes, everything you need to get it set up, from, what the architecture looks like all the way down to like how you define alarms within Milestone. So let's get into the system here. Let me escape. All right, so this is the Herta app. As you can see, this is me. So this is the live portion of the app. I'm going to close this camera out. So this is where you come in to load cameras as well. And here we go, add source. So you can add sources. If you click this little button up here, it'll search out all the OnVIF devices in your system. You enter in a username and password, and then you just select the device that you want. Since I already have cameras, these are the cameras that you use. You just double click on the camera, and then it'll connect to it. It's going to be the same camera that you just saw. So if you're using their application, and let me just show you real quick what it does. So it's going to find my face there, matched me up to a face that I already had in the systems, right? So it gives you a little score. There's 40%, I guess, certainty that that's me. And then, on the left-hand side here are all the faces that it captures. The right-hand side are the ones where it matches. So if you have faces that are uncertain, that it's just grabbing, those will all go on the left side, but the matches are go on the right. The alarms here are the things that they have found. The one thing that's interesting about the Herta app, it's kind of, a little frustrating if it's the first time working with it. It doesn't show anything until you actually hit the little search button. Then it takes a couple seconds, and it's going to bring up all the detections, right? So this is the one that we just witnessed. It gives you the score, gives you the time, gives you some information about the face that it detected. And this goes all the way back once you do the search. So you can search for different individuals here. Obviously today it's been mostly me. Your different subjects. So again, it's not showing anything. Once you do the search, it brings up everybody that's in the system. So you can see I've got myself with a hat and glasses, just to give a different look here. And then we've got my kids here. So they're in the system. And these are your different subjects. So adding a subject is pretty simple. You just type in a name, and you can assign them to a group, make them active or inactive. Again, the easiest way to do it is just connect to a source camera, double click on it, and then you put your face in front of the camera, and you click this little button, and then it waits a couple seconds while it fills up the queue with faces, and that's how you add a camera into the Herta app, or a face. So you can do that with anybody, and then it just all these green ones means I have enough pixels to build a face with, right? So there we go. There's a great picture of me. So let's get rid of that. Since we already have me in the system. So that's basically how you work with the Herta app. The config settings here are pretty general. This gives you the license information. So I basically have all their features installed here. These are the quality requirements for enrolling a face. So, how many images per subject, and we just saw that it got 21 images there in my little capture. The identification parameters, so, this is what you need for detection, this is what you need for a match. We can change this based on how accurate you want it to be. I've found that mostly it'll go between 30 and 60 or 70. And that's the sweet spot for detecting, right? So get right in the middle there, and most of your detections will come through pretty easily. It does use a database, PostgreSQL database that's installed. So if you're troubleshooting and you need help from the Herta guys, they'll connect into that and figure out what's going on. They'll check the logs for you. Very reliable tech support team. And then this is your port basically that you need to open up is this 8001 to communicate between the Herta app and Milestone. All right, we'll go back to the live, and then I'll show you real quick the Herta middleware app, and then we'll do, so this is their middleware app, right? And then we'll do the Milestone integration part. So once you start, I'm going to stop this real quick. You can go in here to settings. This is the metadata that they have available. So a name, last name, a subject code, which I don't find very useful, just as to identify your face in their system. An alarm ID, so if you have several alarms within the Herta system, this will ID that. A score, a quality, and then a group. So if you've defined a group, you can have that. So save those settings, start the app. This is how you map the system. So these are all the Herta cameras, and then these are all the Milestone cameras that you've authenticated into. And this is the mapping that I already have defined. So source 1 into my facial detection camera. You start the app, and it starts passing information in. So here's my Milestone system, and here's all the facial detections that it's done. There was one that it did just a minute ago. Once it finds your face, it'll pop in. There's the latest one there. Gives me a score of 26, passed it through, a quality score of 65. It gives you the name, the last name, and I'm searching here on the Herta message because that's the message that they send into the system. You clear that message, and obviously it's going to show everything in my system that's an event, right? So you can also search by names. So if we search by Mike, it's going to find all of mine. If we search by another name, this is how you'd identify different individuals that you're looking for in your detection, right? So real simple way to search for different users that are being identified. You know, if you're using the IDs, if you're using the different sources, obviously you could search for those as well. I just searched for names because that makes it easy for me. Get rid of that. So here's all of the Herta alarms that get passed into the system. Setting this up within the smart client is really easy. But before we do that, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about some of the troubleshooting things that you want to do with the Herta system. Let's pop in here. All right, so the Herta Milestone Integration app, that middleware app that I showed, if you're having trouble getting the events through, or that you're not getting all the metadata that you want in the system, loading and restarting that app is basically like loading and restarting our event servers. So if you're making changes on either the Herta side or the Milestone side, you might want to restart their Herta Milestone Integration app. Their biosurveillance settings, the identification quality, is another thing that, you know, I've had to adjust a little bit, and we talked about that. You want to get in that sweet spot between 30 and 70 where most of the matchings take place. And they talk a lot about pixels between the eyes. So I have noticed that, you know, when you put on glasses or take glasses off, it does greatly affect your user, right? So if you have customers that are setting this up, make sure that they're, you know, putting the cameras indoors in an area that's well lit, so you have a consistent user coming through. They do have best practices on camera angles and speed of movement. So obviously all of that can be a little bit controlled by, you know, where you place the camera and the different physical security barriers that you put in place to protect the facility or to guide traffic through the facility. The resolution of the cameras, again, since the Herta app is connecting directly into Milestone, connecting directly to the camera, it's going to use the resolution of the camera. It's not necessarily going to use the resolution of the stream within Milestone. So you can record at a lower setting within Milestone and then have the Herta app view it at 1080p or higher. And then, you know, we're not chewing up a bunch of data on the Milestone side. Whoa, what did I just do there? Zoom out. And then the tags and events, right? So, let's go to the smart client demo. We'll just talk about the tags and events real quick while I'm in the demo. Dismiss that. So when you're setting up your smart client, this is the alarm list object down here in this bottom view. Once you click on that, you want to come in here and choose event as the data source. If you choose alarm, it'll bring in only the alarms. Events, it brings in all of the analytics events that are passed into the system. And as you can see, all the Herta events they come in automatically as analytics events. So you don't need to create anything on the milestone side. They just come in automatically, and it's really nice. And they're mapped directly to that camera. If you do want to create alarms, if you do want other functions to happen within the milestone system, then you have to go into milestone and create your alarms, right? So make sure that you've filtered this to events, or you might, look in your smart client and not seeing anything coming in. So let's go into the management app and show how the alarms are set up. Analytics events, Herta, couldn't be any simpler than that, right? Just create the Herta event, and those will come in. And then I have a face ID alarm that I've created. You trigger that off of the analytics event with the name Herta, and then you select your camera. So I've got a camera that I've called facial detection, and then you can have this trigger different events. So I've got some user-defined events. You can do also device events. We'll just use this user-defined event right here. And what this is going to do is this is going to trigger a pop-up whenever there's a face in my system. So we're going to save changes and come back to the smart client. Let's ID my face one more time. So there's my face, and it triggered the pop-up, right? So you can have a system do basically anything that you can trigger with a user-defined event or any other type of event within Milestone via simply creating an alarm and having that alarm trigger the event. So it's pretty simple. And like I said, this is something that's really easy to get set up within Milestone. Our pre-sales team has been working with Herta for most of the year, on and off through several different projects and different events that we've held, and we have given them a good amount of feedback. Obviously, I know Jared has sent them feedback. I've sent them feedback. We'd like to see bounding boxes. We'd like to have different names, different messages, instead of just Herta come in. But it does work well. You can search for different users, like I said before. So it is pretty good integration, very easy to get set up. You only need 2 applications and a license from Herta. So that's about it. If we have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But I know I went over time here, but that's the extent of the integration. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week.